Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, joined by the other Alexis. Her name is Moreno. Yes, you should know this at this point. This is the podcast that talks about all the things movies and all the other things happening in the world in this particular movie podcast. And I'm tired. And I'm just ranting at this point. But it's also spooky month. It is October and the horror season has been ushered in officially. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the horror film Smile, and then also the latest coming out of Andor, the Star Wars streaming show, and then also House of the Dragon, which just had its 7th episode already. That was very quick. And barreling toward its finale. So all that here with, of course, the dragon herself, the hot tea dragon herself, Alexis, on episode number 418. So you said you saw the episode. We're not going to talk about it now, but you said you just saw it in your car?
Yeah.
Explain to me how you were able to make that happen.
Well, I mostly listened to it.
There wasn't much to see.
And then, of course, this is one of those episodes where it's very dark. And it was pitch black. And I still could not see it. I had to stop at a gas station because I was like, what am I seeing?
What am I looking at?
I'm hearing noises.
It was one of those episodes, that's for sure. No, yeah, I've never tried to see an episode of television on my car because I just don't think I would enjoy it that way. But I mean,
well, I spent all of Game of Thrones watching it on my phone anywhere I could. So
you're used to it to an extent. Wow, that's an experience. I'm sure that is. I actually wanted to start off today by talking about some of the stuff that is gonna be hitting our way pretty soon. In fact, by the time that this actually drops, a couple of horror related projects would have already been available on streaming. 3 big ones drop just on Friday, and that would be Werewolf by Night, which is interesting. It's very unlike Marvel Studios to do anything with the word interesting in it, but here we go. Michael Giacchino, is this his directorial debut? Evidently there were some pretty interesting things about it.
I hate that there's no promotion for this, like, whatsoever. And it's so weird. And
it's because, well, I mean, Alexis, I'm sorry, but, like, who the fuck is Werewolf by Night? We gotta make room for Daredevil, right? Because evidently he's back. And we have to, like, save She-Hulk somehow. So, yeah, let's talk about him and let's promote him.
But, how cool would the promotion for this be if it existed?
Hey, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that the mentality of the powers that be don't view it that way. They view this as a very inconsequential piece of content that I'm sure they maybe didn't even want to make, but they just did because they needed content, so they did it. And they would be far more concerned hyping up the fact that Daredevil is back in the MCU.
Yeah.
And She-Hulk isn't doing all that well, but this is why they're hyping up Daredevil. So, I don't know what to expect, honestly, with Werewolf by Night. This is a Halloween horror special. This is the first Marvel's ever done. This is the first thing Giacchino's ever directed. So, I'm very curious to see how it turns out. I hope it's different than most of the things that come out of Marvel, you know? Evidently, like, Giacchino went out and got a different agent, and he's for this particular directing gig, so he may be looking into doing more stuff. Because Giacchino, if you don't know, I'm not saying you of course know Giacchino, but for people who may not be aware of or follow the world of movies closely as we do, Giacchino is one of the best film composers working today. If you don't know him, I mean, you will as soon as you realize that he wrote the music for some of the best Pixar scores like Incredibles, and Up, and Ratatouille, and Inside Out, including, of course, he has some great blockbuster, honestly, anthems like the Batman score, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we're being honest with ourselves, even though the Academy will never see it this way, is deserving of an Academy
Mhm.
Award for Best Original Score, because that was impeccable. Impeccable. There's just, there's some moments in that score, if you listen to the whole thing, that are just like, honestly, I think that Batman score might be one of his best, and that's saying something considering his like catalog, and it's quite an extensive catalog of work. So it's going to be interesting there, but that's not all the horror stuff coming out on that day. So we also have, and this is very exciting, the Midnight Club. I don't know a damn thing about what this thing even is, but I'm excited because of who alone is attached to it, and that is Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan has produced some of the best horror work of the last few years. Talk about The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Doctor Sleep, and of course Midnight Mass. This guy just continues to crank out like amazing material after amazing material. And as I speak, because I believe they are having the premiere actually the night that we're recording this, the Midnight Club just received a Guinness World Record for most jump scares in a single episode.
Oh my god. Not us talking about jump scares with him specifically before we started recording. No.
There were 21, by the way, jump scares in that single episode.
No. One episode?
Yes.
Stop. Just kill me.
I'm sure you will be dead by the end of that episode. 21 jump scares. That's... Now I'm scared. Literally for it. It's like I was excited and I'm like, oh no.
What a teaser.
Right? Also, there's apparently a whole bunch of like cameos from different actors that he's already worked with from previous projects. So they'll be in the background, I'm sure, and that'll be fun. Also, this comes to us by 20th Century Fox, and Disney has decided to put this on Hulu because, of course, the latest installment of the Hellraiser franchise, simply titled Hellraiser 2022. Why do they fucking do this? I hate this. Like Scream had a movie that came out this year, which is like the 5th or 6th one, and they just called it Scream. And Halloween did the same thing in 2018, so it's like, okay. So Hellraiser, I don't know a damn thing about this, but people seem to be excited about what this is. It is like a long-standing franchise, it seems like, based on a 1986 novella called The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. And that's all I know about it.
I know, like, I don't know if he's Hellraiser. I have no clue. I've never seen this movie. I know that it's like the guy with like the needles in him. Mm-hmm. That is it. I just remember going to Planet Hollywood and not sitting near the mannequin that they had of him.
Well, let's look at this here. The director is, for this new movie, David Bruckner, and his filmography consists of movies I've never heard of, like The Accident, Amateur Night, Talk Show, and Crazy in Love. Oh, those are short films. I'm sorry. The feature films would be The Ritual from 2017 and The Night House from 2020. Still, I don't think I recognize these titles, but hey, there's that. However,
The Ritual.
That one rings a bell,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I can't picture it though. Again, we follow so many movies and so many of them we know of, but we just didn't see.
Yeah.
Like I know Morbius exists. Did I watch that? Fuck that. No. No. I did watch Cats. So I don't know about that. I'm sure Cats is better than Morbius, though. Literally. And they're not. Yes, I know. But one name I recognize here that's not particularly encouraging, shall we say. Produced and story by David S. Goyer. who, if you don't remember, David S. Goyer is, well, I'm even scared to say it, because, recently was attached to the screenplays for 2019's Terminator Dark Fate. 2013's Man of Steel. 2016's Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. It just gets better and better. 2012's... What
a lineup.
Right? What a freaking lineup. Also, I believe 2012 was The Dark Knight Rises. 2011's Ghost Rider, The Spirit of Vengeance. I think you get the idea.
Interesting.
So this is the guy whose story, I guess, is the screenplay for this movie. So this is why it's important to do in your part, whether or not you want to get excited for a project or not. Like, look into who are the people that are making it, Like, for example, there was a movie that came out last year that, like, Sopranos fans were excited for called The Many Saints of New York. And it probably was, in hindsight, the fact that it didn't do very well. I mean, Alan Taylor directed it, and he directed the Dark World, Thor: The Dark World, and it's like, okay. Yeah, I could have seen that coming if I cared enough to, like, look into who made that movie. Yeah. I mean, it could very well be good. Who knows? Maybe this is a winner. You never know. And with a good enough director, it could
work.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, those are the offerings that are going to be out for this past week, the week that our episode actually drops. However, there is more to come. And this is actually particularly exciting for a number of reasons. So, this comes to us, and evidently Netflix is doing a 5-night event leading up to Halloween. This is pretty unique for them. And it's going to be brought to us by the guy that should have directed The Haunted Mansion, the guy that everybody wanted to direct The Haunted Mansion, but Disney wouldn't have it, and they never would. The Academy Award-winning Guillermo del Toro has teamed up with Netflix. Keep in mind, of course, that later this year, in December, I believe, his next film, his next feature, and I think his first animated movie, Pinocchio, comes out. So, and we're all, of course, have been hyping that up for weeks and weeks now. So, what is it that he's doing with Netflix also leading up to Halloween? Well, it turns out that he is going to release what is called Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. And it is there are 8 stories. So it's like an anthology series. So think of Ryan Murphy, but good. So 8 chilling stories over 4 consecutive nights from some of the best, brightest, and bloodiest minds in horror. Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities begin October 25th, and the lineup for who directed some of these anthologies include the directors of The Babadook, Splice, Mandy, and many more. Oh, yes!
Now that is a lineup. God
right?
Damn, that is so fun.
I love everything about this. I love everything about this project. Del Toro, the directors they got, the concept, Netflix doing an event for Halloween, like leading up to Halloween.
That is so fun. Oh my god.
It's great. In addition to the regular Flanagan, lineup that they have, it's just wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing October.
Yeah.
What an amazing October.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time I had one that was this stacked? And notice, I still haven't mentioned, and there's a reason why I didn't mention, and it is kind of an afterthought. And this is kind of sad, though, because this has been an amazing year for horror movies. Like, literally all of them have been pretty fucking great. However, one of the ones that will be coming out in October that I can pretty much tell you is going to be dog shit is Halloween Ends. Of all the movies,
I know.
That's the one that would
so
probably...
funny. Why is it so... Do you remember when that other one came out? Not this one, obviously. Not the one before, but the one before. I can't remember what year. That one was so good.
With Michael Myers?
Yeah.
So the last one, before the... Okay. The one from a few years ago, 2018?
I think so. I think that was when, like, me and you watched Halloween for the first time.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we did an episode a few years back when we reviewed the original and then we watched the new one.
Yeah.
That one was great.
Yeah. I'm honestly, like, so surprised that the last... Well, this one I don't know. And, like, the last one, I heard really bad things about it.
Did you never saw it?
I was just like, how?
Did you ever see it?
No.
It is uniquely bad. And it's, to me, and I gotta be real with you. And I know I said this to David and everybody who I talk to who asks about this one. One of the most confusing and infuriating experiences I've ever had watching a movie. Because when you get to 20 minutes into the movie and you're like, this is really all over the place. Also, why are we spending the first half of this movie with a bunch of randos who claim they were there the night that it happened, but we're just meeting them for the first time? Meanwhile, like, Jamie Lee Curtis is in the hospital for the entire movie. And mostly in a room. And then it's a bunch of, like, random people who go on this, like, unhinged mob riot like mentality, and it inserts some really strange and incoherent commentary.
Interesting.
It is, and on top of it just being fucking stupid with, like, how you would think that on some level some of the people involved were like, hey, let's make it a comedy where, like, the deaths are actually a joke, because they are. Like, the ways in which people die, yes, while gruesome, and if that's what you're there for, I guess you'll love it. But it just comes across as cheap and almost borderline Looney Tunes. Like, for one instance, like, there's this woman who has a firearm, and she fires it at Michael. Michael, like, I don't know what happens, like, because he's in a car when this happens. And so he pushes the car door forward, and the bullet hits the car door, ricochets, and hits the woman that fired it in the forehead.
Oh, no.
This is the kind of movie we're dealing with Halloween Kills. Like, and to me, far be it for me to have ever seen a far steeper drop off in quality from Halloween 2018 to Halloween Kills, because, like, Halloween 2018 legitimately is amazing. Really good. Halloween Kills, one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. Easily one of the most I would say it's in the running for the most incompetent movie ever made that I've ever seen. I think Halloween Kills is up there with Jurassic World, the new one. What was it called?
World
Doesn't
Dominion
matter.
Or something.
Or
Dominion. Oh, fucking.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's incompetent on every level. It sucks. But I guess on some level it's funny. If you're hate watching it, maybe. But, like, no. And this new one, I mean, it zapped so much of the excitement out of this one. It's like, okay, well, why even go forward? I already hear it's bad. Bad to the point where instead of, like, being exclusively in theaters, they're going to have a streaming debut at the same time it's in theaters. Like, it was like the HBO Max play from 2021.
Mm-hmm.
That's no good. No. Yeah. Oh, well. There are plenty of other offerings in the sea, it seems like, for horror, so it's like, we'll be fine. But it's pretty sad that of all the movies to just, like, not be in this great, hallowed, like, halls of horror films, Halloween movie wouldn't be in that. And I don't know, I haven't had the opportunity to see it. Well, maybe that's not true. I've been trying to avoid its existence. So that transitions us to Hocus Pocus. A film that admittedly I didn't really get into until a few years back. As a matter of fact, that same year, 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I loved it.
It's so good.
It's so fucking good. And again, it's that movie you put on when at this time of year especially, you put it on all day, every day. It's great. And it gets kind of better with every watch. And it also just makes you nostalgic for those kind of movies. Particularly when Disney used to make those kind of movies. So a new one came out, and evidently it was like the biggest debut for anything on Disney Plus ever, which of course it would be. And the reviews have been interesting. Mm-hmm. I have to imagine, and I think this is almost entirely the case, for a lot of people, the idea that it exists and maybe it does the bare minimum is good enough considering all of the built-in nostalgia / goodwill going into it that has, created some reviews that can be interpreted as okay to good. Mm-hmm. But nothing I have seen would suggest it's awful. Now, and to be clear, for a movie that's on Disney Plus, that's a win. No, for real. Like, this may sound like a joke, but like I'm being like 100% real. It's like for a film to not be like down on arrival and considered to be dog shit. Like, look at the track record. Look at Artemis Fowl. Look at the Home Alone reboot.
Oh no.
Look at the recent Pinocchio. It's like. And we thought the live action remakes were bad, and they are. But like this is like dog shit. And so for this one to not be considered in that same company is a win. So there's that. I don't know. Have you seen it? What have you heard of it?
I've heard of people crying over it.
In what way?
A scene that makes them cry. I don't know what it is. I literally have not. I haven't read what it's about or anything. I've just seen kind of like reactions from people. Right. I'm seeing it.
By the way, did I tell you that somebody? I think I noticed that we were watching this movie in theaters, Peter and I, a few months back, and I think I heard something, but I wasn't sure if I was like hearing it. And then I looked at Peter, and he was looking in that direction too, so maybe it was true. In Thor: Love and Thunder, somebody was like really like breaking down crying because of Natalie Portman's death scene.
Oh man.
And I think it was a cancer related situation. Maybe somebody got triggered because she dies of cancer in the movie, and that was a pretty good like death scene, all things considered. So it's like what the hell? That's sad.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like obnoxiously loud. But you could hear somebody was like crying. Yeah.
Oh man. I hope they're okay.
I hope they are too. So yeah.
I'm seeing it not this weekend, but the next weekend. I'm excited though. Like I feel like I'm gonna like be in the moment because I'm seeing it like with friends and we're gonna make like a whole thing out of it and stuff. So I'm sure that's gonna have some influence over my viewing. But I don't know. We've talked about it before, like during the D23 stuff. Like I'm still excited about it. I don't think that you should take this movie very seriously because not even the first one was.
Of course not. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it'll be fun, and like I haven't heard like bad things about it. Like I've just heard like, oh, it's good. Like it's a good movie. Like it's, you could rewatch it, you know.
Right.
With
honestly, again, considering what's come out on Disney Plus lately, I would say that's a fucking win. Also, I want to be clear about this. Because there are, technically speaking, Disney Plus original movies that I don't consider to, like, Disney Plus had no involvement. Like for example, like freaking Luca and like Turning Red were not made for Disney Plus. They were made by Pixar Animation Studios for the theaters. They were yanked into being on Disney Plus. They were successful on the platform, sure, but they were not.
Yeah, no, I don't consider those Disney Plus movies.
Like, for reals. No, not really. I don't think Cruella is a particularly good movie, but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
For how crazy and funny and, like, absurd it is, you know? And, like, that's the most fun I've had with a Disney live-action movie in years, honestly. The Cruella movie with Emma Stone. I think I rewatched it, I think, earlier this year. And I was like, I like this. Yeah. I don't know how good it is, but I really like it.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is. And I think I've come to accept that with how the studio is these days, a movie just being fun is the best it can hope for, particularly the live action realm. So it's like, if it does that, that's a win.
Yeah.
And it's also a legacy sequel. And what does that mean? Well, everybody I think at this point has come to like understand that term is like, oh, it's the same movie again, but it's like so many years later and we're just here to have a party. Which is what this is.
Yeah.
And if you can live with that, then I think you'll have a good time. Because otherwise, what else would a Hocus Pocus sequel even be? Except for the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Especially with the way that the first one ended. I don't know.
What, with them turning into dust?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll fuck that, right? This movie exists, so. Although it would be pretty, like, one of the things that I'm hoping I can look over is the excessive use of green screen, which is what is plaguing a lot of projects over at the House of Mouse, it seems like. It was funny to see this week Christian Bale, I believe, is doing like press for Amsterdam, the newest David O. Russell film, which comes out in theaters this week. And hilariously, he was asked about like what was it like to work with Marvel, and he said that it was disorienting because just imagine. So they're asked like, "Oh, what was it like to work with this person?" Disorienting is the great word you would hope for, right? Well, he was literally just like blinded with all the freaking green screens, which is like the set of the movie. Which, if you saw the movie, you could tell. Yeah. I really like Thor: Love and Thunder, but you could tell more than most Marvel films. Wow, the budget just like I don't know what happened there. It's not good. Not good at all. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that is, and I'm also saving it too because I want to be in the right mood for it. I don't want to be in a bad mood. You know, I want to be in the best of moods for it.
Yeah, so. Like it's Hocus Pocus and it's Halloween. Like, yes. Yeah, you have to be.
Absolutely. Okay, moving off into other areas here. Romantic comedies have seemingly made a return in 2022 in that they exist in theaters because, I mean, they're all over the place, I'm sure. You can get your romantic comedy fix anywhere on streaming these days. And you could also, I think, trace the rise of streaming to the decline of rom-coms in theaters, sure. But if you were alive in the good old 2000s, as Alexis and I were, of course, look at how old we are. Of course we would be there. But, I mean, that was a particular heyday for us, you know, the good old 2000s. That's our, like, version of what, I don't know, I guess the 80s are to some people, where, like, you remember it. Yeah. You know, really
that's
clear.
True. I didn't think of that.
In some way, right? And so you remember a lot of really odd, specific things, like it was yesterday. Well, one of the things that was really king at the movies at that time were romantic comedies. They would be out literally every week. There'd be like a new one. Like the same poster, just like different like stars on it.
Like the Friends with Benefits. And then like the other,
or Just with Friends.
Literally the same movie. Literally the same movie.
And I don't know, are you talking about the one with Ashton Kutcher or the one with Justin Timberlake?
Exactly.
Okay.
Either or.
I mean, the fact that Justin Timberlake was leading one, I mean, that should tell you it's like what we were working with. But there were some pretty good ones in that decade, you know? I really liked The Holiday with, Cameron Diaz was in a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate Winslet and Jack Black and Jude Law. I love that movie so much. But if you go back and look at the 2010s, those movies just disappeared. They were just not in demand. And not just rom-coms, but just like straight up comedies were like dying off at the box office. Because they were just like those type of genres being like, if you wanted to find them, you could go on streaming, or they were being absorbed by like other kinds of movies that were prioritizing those elements in their films. Like Marvel particularly. You could also maybe even factor this in as to why they were so big that decade, is they absorbed a lot of comedy or comedic elements into their formula, which you can see all throughout their movies. And not just Marvel, a bunch of blockbusters did. So, and of course we know that Kevin Feige has, it's been reported that to him, there is nothing more important than comedy when he goes into his test screenings. Which that should tell you a lot, shouldn't it? About Kevin Feige, right? It's like every detail you find out about that man lately, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Great, I know. So they've kind of like not been around except for like this last year where post the first year and a half, the first 2 years of COVID, more movies come out in theaters. There's more of a regular movie going crowd that's come back. And we've had like rom-coms. We began the year with the J-Lo Owen Wilson one, which I believe they both were in rom-coms in the 2000s. So it was kind of like a weird throwback to have them in one. And then we had a more successful one from a financial standpoint with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, which was received much better. And I think did a really, really good job at the box office, as a matter of fact, and was pretty good. And even later this month, we're going to... This is weird because I think it's like the week of Halloween, and who's gonna want to see a rom-com during Halloween in theaters? Like, who goes to I mean, that's the whole thing. But I'm kind of a sucker for these kind of movies because, like, okay, I see the trailer and it shows you the whole movie. I don't care. I want to see it, even though I've seen it. It's the George Clooney, Julia Roberts one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. But I saw another one with J-Lo. I forgot where I saw it. I think it was yesterday. But she's they're like getting married or something. It's it's
Marry Me, isn't it? Not Marry, isn't it the one with she's gonna get married to her like celebrity boyfriend? Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one with Owen Wilson, isn't it?
No. It hasn't come out yet, but it's
okay. I don't know which one you're talking about. I don't think I've heard of it.
I'll tell you later. I forgot the name, but that one looks really fun too. But the one that you were talking about also seems really fun.
It does, and even though I've already seen the whole movie in that trailer, I don't care. I want to go see it
over and over again.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, rom-coms and it's this couple that's like long estranged and long divorced, and you know what's going to happen, and I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. I really am, and I kind of feel like I've been deprived of it for all these years because I haven't seen much of that lately, And it reminds me of the past, which is also, kind of pathetic, but also kind of like lovely. I don't know. However, the one that came out this last week has been causing quite a stir because people have been like yelling at each other, it seems like, for why it was that this movie didn't do all that well. And that is Bros. We discussed this last time, I believe. Billy Eichner wrote the screenplay, and it stars himself, and I believe it's Luke McFarlane, who evidently is a Hallmark Christmas movie star. Which there's a joke in the movie about that. I actually went to go see it last week because I was, you know what? I'm bored. Like, I was so fucking bored on Saturday. I was like, Jesus Christ, I gotta get out of here. I even considered watching Avatar. That's how bored I was. And Peter wasn't available to go see it, so I was like, all right, well, I'll go watch whatever else is there that I haven't seen. And that was Bros. And it was pretty good. Actually, really good in some spots. Pretty, I would say moving and powerful in the right places that it needs to be. I would say I understand where some people would be turned off in that in moments it comes off a bit preachy in that. So Eichner's character is the curator of this like LGBTQ history museum. And so inadvertently throughout the dialogue here and there, they'll drop a whole bunch of like history on you. Like you didn't know, well now you know kind of stuff. Which, not the worst I've seen, but you do pick up on like, oh, that's another like moment where you're telling me about something that happened. Which, of course history is great, but like, don't like maybe if you interweave it less obviously in your dialogue. That's the issue there. But as far as like the comedy and the romance, it's great. That's the kind of stuff that makes rom-coms the genre in the first place. It's all that you want. It's just very gay. Which that's what this trailer sold this movie as. Yeah. And there's kind of this debate going on right now about why was this movie not seen by many people. It made $5 million at the box office in its opening weekend, which, for comparison's sake, is half of what West Side Story did. And West Side Story was a colossal box office bomb. The recent one, 2021. Yeah. It didn't do very well. And Eichner kind of went on this like rant on Twitter, kind of like using homophobia as a scapegoat. And that sparked a backlash to his backlash, where it's like a whole bunch of industry people were like pushing back on him saying, well, there were no big names in this movie. It's also the wrong season for this kind of movie. People wanted to go see a scary film. And as you and I know, we saw that difference because you and I actually went to the theater together for the first time in a long time. We went to go see what did we want to go see? A horror movie, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And it was crowded. It was so fucking packed because it's the season for it. And it's come to light that Universal made the decision to move this to the date that it came out instead of where it was originally going to come out, which was mid-August.
That makes no sense.
Which it should have come out then because there was nothing in
Literally
August.
Nothing.
There was nothing. The biggest thing in August was Dragon Ball. Which is, it's pretty big, sure, in certain markets, but like, I think that's the only movie I saw that month was Dragon Ball. Isn't that something? So it's
that's
like,
weird.
I know, that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Especially because there are aspects of this film that I think are pretty universal. Like this has all the right ingredients of a great rom-com, and if you like all the other ones and don't like this one, maybe there are some, things about like, well, the preachiness, sure, I get it, but no, this is the formula and done really well. It's just very gay, which is the point also. I was curious to see, here anyway, just like, this is a conservative area that you and I are from, basically. Yeah. And I was curious to see if anyone would even bother to go see it. I was like monitoring the ticket sales all throughout because I can do it on the app to see how many people are like buying tickets. I think only 2 people saw it.
Stop. That is so funny. That is horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. I didn't hear about this movie until it came out. I never saw a trailer.
Not
and
one?
How many times have I seen the trailer for the Julia Roberts movie? I've never seen the trailer for this one. The time that it came out, maybe not the best.
The marketing not great either, it looks like.
No. So I think it just had a lot not going for it.
No, I think that's true, and ultimately the fact that rom-coms just don't do that much business anymore also comes into play. There's a lot of factors. I also, what I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle, because we've been seeing it like this year especially, it's getting really bad now where every movie that happens to like showcase a minority of any kind just gets immediate hate just because it has that minority. Yeah. The Woman King.
Wild.
The Woman King. Like, what the fuck? Like, these are real people.
Yeah.
No, but they replace men. Okay, whatever. But more to the point, it's like, if you go, have you seen the trailer yet for that movie?
For Bros?
Bros, yeah.
No.
Go go on YouTube and see it when you can. I do think there are a lot of people that trailer turned off. Because it was very in your face about it, and you know how certain like homophobic people can be about like that kind of thing. Like, I remember back in It Chapter 2 a few years back.
Yeah.
That opening scene, which was honestly kind of hard to watch and pretty mean-spirited, but the opening scene of It Chapter 2, which I think that movie even featured a gay character, right? All throughout the movie.
Yeah.
One of the like Losers Club people was.
Yeah.
But the opening.
Finn Wolfhard, is that his name?
No, Bill Hader, isn't it? Or was it Finn Wolfhard?
But yeah, isn't he him younger?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I don't remember.
But yeah, Bill Hader.
The older version, yes, is Bill Hader. It opened up with like a pretty gruesome death scene, but what was uglier about it was that like it was this gay couple that was being beaten to death basically at a carnival. Mm-hmm. But before that even happened, I think they kissed. And I remember watching that, and I think some people in front of me were like grossed out, like audibly like gagging at it. And I'm like, really? So it's like, that's even people who claim that are very like okay with it, they're not all of a sudden when it's in their face. So, and I even saw a comment like to one of the replies to Billy Eichner's tweet rant was like, well, of course I wasn't going to go see this movie because I'm not gay. And so why would I be interested? Literally, that's what he said.
Oh my God.
It's not about me. I can't possibly relate to it.
Oh my God. I can't with these people. What the hell?
Okay. You can't possibly relate to a love story, all right. Or comedy. But he was like, but no, I don't hate gay people.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah. I could tell.
Burn in hell, man. Seriously. Fuck.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, so completely moronic, unself-aware. It's like, wow. You just told on yourself and you don't even know. Yeah. So, that's, I guess that's what it was. You know, every year we have a couple of films that deserve a lot more, and what's really sad because of like everybody like yelling at each other about what was the real reason for why the film didn't do very well, what's getting lost is the movie itself and how good or not it actually is. Yeah. Which reminds me a lot of like Don't Worry Darling, where no one's talking about the actual movie. Yeah. They're talking about everything surrounding it, you know? Even like, and this is kind of like the dark side of award season, is when like movies have like these big premieres at like these festivals. Ultimately, there's just like some narrative that inevitably, a narrative that comes out and just like consumes all the conversation, and what gets lost is just the movie itself. So like right now with Amsterdam, David O. Russell he's been having a scandal for some scandals. I don't know what happened. He apparently was accused of like sexually abusing his niece. I don't know what happened there. I don't know the full details, but that was one of the accusations. I don't know how he wasn't Me Too'd if that was the case, but he's still around. Also, the week that his movie comes out, there are all these new allegations of him being abusive to his employees on the set of his movies. That evidently it got so bad on the making of American Hustle, Christian Bale had to act as a mediator. So yeah, these are not the kind of stories you want coming out when your new movie comes out. So it's like, Yeah. That's not good. Not good at all. So that's... I wanted to ask you, because we saw it, I want to say, I don't know if we saw the full trailer of it, but we saw most of it. I didn't realize this. Damien Chazelle has a new movie coming out. Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
With Margot Robbie, of all people. And Brad Pitt.
Which is... He's also getting a little bit of a bad PR at the moment.
What was it? What is it now? I forget what it was.
With Angelina Jolie. She, like... I think she... I don't know... Again, I don't know the full details, but something about them being on an airplane and him getting very violent with her and the rest of the kids. Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, it's everywhere. It's like you can't really escape any of what's going on. But yeah, what did you make of that trailer?
It'll be interesting to see the extent that everything goes with Brad Pitt and the director, because with Olivia Wilde, we saw how big this got.
It's interesting, right? Yeah, Florence Pugh was like basically in full-on retaliation. If we're gonna be real, Florence Pugh was like Alicent Hightower, and like that's if the cast of Don't Worry, Darling was like House of the Dragon, that's what it would be like. However, I don't know too much about that, so I can't really comment on it. But you and I are big fans of Damien Chazelle. Whiplash is amazing. We both love La La Land. And I would say some of us feel very much so that his movie was robbed of the Best Picture win. Robbed, I think, would be the appropriate way of putting what happened all those years ago. So it seems pretty chaotic. It seems very much big Hollywood actors like Robbie and Pitt having big actory moments. It seems like a movie about the movies. Evidently, this is supposed to capture the transition of the silent film era to the talkies. Let me get it.
Those types of movies.
Yes.
Singing in the Rain. Do you remember The Artist? Oh my god.
Yes. I even enjoyed, and this is another movie about the movies, but actually I thought was more character focused. Mank. A lot of people didn't like Mank, but I actually really enjoyed it. But I guess you have to care a little about the subject matter going on there. The description for Damien Chazelle's Babylon film: a tale of outsized ambition and outrageous excess, tracing the rise and fall of multiple dreamers during an era, surprise of course, about dreamers, in an era of unbridled decadence and depravity in the 1920s Hollywood. That's a great description.
Yeah.
I love it already. So it's like Damien Chazelle's track record, his movies have gotten many nominations. They've won many Oscars.
But
this seems not the Oscar, but it won many of them, that's for sure. Stands to reason this one would be very much up the Academy's alley, even based on that trailer.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. It's Damien Chazelle. I'm gonna watch it. Also opening this week in limited release is a movie by Todd Field. I'm trying to remind myself who this person is. I'm sorry, there's so many directors. And just as I click on his name, it's not loading. So anyway, he's made a movie called Tar. And this one evidently stars Cate Blanchett, who is amazing in everything she does. And I'm pissed because she may actually end up being the one that wins the Academy Award for Best Actress over everyone's favorite Michelle Yeoh. Which Kate already has 2 Oscars. And Michelle doesn't have any. Anyway, Tar, the film set in the international world of classical music, centers on Lydia Tarr, widely considered one of the greatest living composer, conductors, and first ever female chief conductor of a major German orchestra.
Nice.
Cate Blanchett, I can...
Ooh, that's...
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And it's opening in limited release this week. I don't think we're going to get it anywhere. Maybe your Harkins theater would play it if you want to look it up. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I should also want to be fair to them. The movie I mentioned earlier that you and I were talking about with Clooney and Roberts was called Ticket to Paradise. That'll be coming out later this month. And there's one that you and I, I'm sure, will be very interested in because of who's attached. It is called The Banshees of Inisherin. I am sure I botched that completely, the pronunciation. But this comes to us by director Martin McDonagh, who did In Bruges and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, who, of course, was nominated several times. And I believe that movie won the Academy Award for both Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell. 3 Billboards. You saw the movie, right? 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri? No. 2017. You didn't see it? No. Wow, okay. It was very good. This movie, 2 lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. And this stars Colin Farrell, who is getting some buzz for Best Actor. Brendan Gleeson, who is the father of Domhnall Gleeson. And Barry Keoghan. So, of course, that name itself is going to attract some people. By the way, he did some fabulous photos recently. He had a baby recently. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw that. It's like, damn.
I keep up.
I'm sure you and I both do. Just to see what's going on there. But, yeah. That'll be fun to see him. I love when he pops up in movies out of nowhere.
Yeah. He always does that, I feel. Like, I remember when we saw Eternals, David was just like, I've seen this guy before. And I'm like, yes, you have.
Yes, you have.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So there's that. I want to say that's where we're at. Just real quick, very, very quickly, before we move on. As far as, like, where things stand like right now, it is a wide open race as far as nominations for Best Picture. There are not too many frontrunners. The ones that everybody, and I did my research this weekend and like looked up where the experts like peg it at right now. The ones that everybody feels like sure about that are getting nominations and are real contenders are the Spielberg movie, The Fabelmans, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. As far as everything else is concerned, no one's too sure much of anything. So it looks like right now it's going to be somewhat of a lacking year in terms of the kind of movies that the Oscar people usually go for, which makes you wonder what other kinds of movies might like fall into this category, considering that now they have to pick 10 movies. They changed the rules recently where they have to nominate 10 movies. And so what goes in there would be very interesting. Mm-hmm. Like so much so that people are legitimately considering Top Gun Maverick could like receive a lot of nominations because it was very well received. It's a great fucking movie. It made so much money, $1 billion. Everyone loves that movie. And I would not be mad at a single nomination it gets. So much so, some pundits were even like thinking it's not crazy that Tom Cruise gets a Best Actor nomination.
Oh,
because of how lacking it looks like. The 3 definites that I saw were like, well, definites, quote unquote, Colin Farrell, Austin Butler for Elvis, and Brendan Fraser, who's the frontrunner right now for The Whale. Mm. And that's just nominations. Everything else is kind of a toss-up.
Nominate Robert Pattinson, you cowards.
Yes. It pisses me off that there's so many great movies that are blockbusters, like Top Gun Maverick. You could also even consider Everything Everywhere in there. RRR is technically a blockbuster. Yes, that's true. And I'm sure Wakanda Forever will be great. I mean, it looks amazing. Don't forget about The Batman, assholes. That was an amazing movie. It's like, of all the ones to like, and that's like, come on. I mean, seriously? It's the best Batman movie. I love it. It's great. So, there's your update, everybody. We'll see where that takes us. There's plenty of more projects and movies to keep us entertained, that's for sure. I want to actually start off with I don't want to end the podcast scared, so let's just get this out of the way with right now. Alexis and I went... Legit, because I've been like trying to not think about this all week. Because there were some moments where the lights were off and I'm like, nope. Which is another great horror film you need to see.
When you were talking, I looked behind me and I was like, okay, I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, or stop smiling. It's no shit. Okay. So Alexis and I with Kyle went to go see a horror film this past week, as we alluded to before. It is directed by Parker Finn. This is his first movie.
Oh my god.
Right?
You know what? Good for him.
Good for him with how he was able to make us feel. Jesus Christ. Okay. Parker Finn. His first movie is called Smile. And you know, sometimes, you know, a horror movie does its job really well when it leaves a lasting impression on you. For instance, after I watched Nope, when I was walking out of the movie with Peter, there was some screams off in the distance. It was just some kids playing on the carousel, you know, that's right by the theater. Mm-hmm. And I was like legit like nervous. Like, what the fuck was that? Because of what I just experienced in the theater itself. The poster literally unnerves me on Letterboxd. I don't know if you've seen it, but
nope, I don't want to see it. Nope.
Nope. Okay. It's the girl smiling, and I can't look at it. I don't want to look at it because it brings everything back. And then it's like, you know, you hear evil laughing, and it's like, oh no, am I next? Like it's okay. I'm gonna read the description for this movie, but I just have to tell you that I've watched a lot of horror films, and a lot of horror films this year have been great, but for different kinds of ways. So the description. Once you see it, it's too late. Damn. This is Letterboxd right here. After witnessing a bizarre, traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. As an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life, Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. We should note that we saw this film in a very packed house. Evidently, there were some underage teenagers there that some person fleeced on us.
Said, can you take care of my children, please? You look like good people.
Evidently, I don't know if she had many options, to be real with you, but hey, we, like, sure, okay, we're not, I mean, nobody was going to come in here and say anything, but they're already inside. Like, what's going to happen then? I mean, they're going to pull Peter and get kicked out. Fault in Our Stars, anybody? Remember that old throwback? But, yeah. So we saw it, and, well, let's just say there was a feeling in the air that was quite overwhelming. And, in an unexpected way, because, in this month, I went to go see Barbarian. I went to go see Pearl. Both of those films were great in their own right. They were suspenseful, they were disturbing, they were disgusting, and they were great. And I should mention that it takes a bit these days to get me really, like, scared, like scary kind of stuff, you know? And to really, like, get me into a place where I'm, like, freaking the fuck out. Well, it seems like something really got me. And I wanted to just read some quick reactions to the film before we get into our actual experiences. This comes to us from, I believe, Robert Cargill. Smile opens tonight, so here was my initial reaction after seeing it. So many of the visuals and scares have stuck with me through a week of great cinema. Not since Hereditary has a mainstream movie gone this hard. Love it or hate it, it's one that's going to haunt you well after. Bibbs, William Bibbiani, you know that Smile movie? It's scary as all freaking hell. Zoe Rose Bryant, by the way, these are critics in case it wasn't clear. There are 2 scenes I haven't been able to shake since I saw Smile. One involving a gift, the other involving a knife. And I can't think of any better way to recommend a horror movie than to say that there's some shit here you won't be able to unsee for a few days.
It's been a week.
So, I'm gonna just say it flat out. I think Smile, to me, is... one more thing, David Chen. Smile is some pretty great horror filmmaking, like It Follows, but for smiling people. Some great jump scares, creatively horrifying imagery, plus it actually feels like it has something to say. Sosie Bacon is a star. Sosie Bacon, of course, is our main actor here, plays Dr. Cotter. I was so surprised by this movie. I wasn't expecting much going into it. I wasn't very, interested by the trailers, you know? I gotta be honest. This is one of the scariest films I've seen in a long time. To the point where we're into the movie, and I'm like, I want to leave. I wanted to get up and leave because it got to a level of intensity where it was like, it so got into my head that I was like, no. I need a break. I literally, I think I turned to you at one point and like, can we get an intermission? I feel like I need some time to recover.
I feel like I couldn't breathe the whole movie because you just don't know. Like, I think it did such a good job with the jump scares. But I think that my favorite thing about the movie was the way that the camera moves, the way that it does close-ups and then it moves, like, it'll do a close-up on one person. It'll be a conversation between 2 people. And then it moves on to the second person and it's a wide shot, and then it goes back to the other person and it's a wide shot, and then it goes back and it's a close-up. Like, you just don't know, am I supposed to look at them? Is something gonna happen? Like, at all times you just feel like something is going to happen. Yeah.
And we're going to start with there. I mean, I think a lot of people at this point have come to the point where when they hear like jump scares, like roll their eyes, because so many films are like they do that trick to death. It's not very good. There's no point to it. And yeah, however, when done right, and boy, is it done so right here, because there's also a point to it too. Like, I feel like everyone agrees that all the jump scares are to a point.
Yeah.
And ultimately, while they're all great in their own right, they get you. And they got me every fucking time. Let's be real about
single
that.
Time.
Every single time.
It's not hard to get me, but like this one, I could tell that it was done with love.
It was, very much so. But there's also a thing where, and I believe Bibbs said this, and I'll read his some more of his thoughts on the review that I pulled up here, but he said something that it actually, like, the jump scares are to a point where you feel exhausted because of how many of them there are. Mm-hmm. And you're just waiting for them.
Yeah.
And then they still get you, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's almost like 3-dimensional in a way, like, no, the director here is really trying to wear you down and make you feel like how Dr. Cotter feels. Yeah, Dr. Cotter is feeling. And she's feeling so
paranoid.
Yeah, and we're paranoid with her because
and
we're
it's
basically
like interesting too because she is aware of what's happening. She knows that, like, she understands what's happening. Mm-hmm. But like, she still is like, I can't do anything about it. Like, she feels frustrated, and you feel that. Everything that she feels, you feel.
Yeah. Too much. She feels too much, let's just say. And it ends up going back into our own feelings here. No, I mean, like, to me, it starts off pretty fucking strong with the first kill. Oh, we should also mention this. I was surprised. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. I don't want to comment on what you were saying with the visuals. Yes, the visuals off the bat are kind of striking because they're not at all the kind of visuals you associate a generic mainstream horror film, which this is what this looked like, if we're being real from the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come and find out, oh no, this is a film.
Yeah.
And like how he moves the camera and a lot of the aerial shots that are upside down feel a lot. It reminded me almost immediately of The Shining. I could see that influence right then and there. Even, and this is where it's really freaky. And I noticed this immediately because it reminded me not just of The Shining.
I'm literally like, my heart is pounding so fast.
It's not just you see a demon behind me, just like all Insidious style, just like.
Oh my god!
Duh, like
stop.
There's an eye behind you, like literally.
Stop! I know.
No.
Freaking out.
But it's not just like. Okay, but why were, to me, like when I see The Shining, what were the point of the aerial shots as like they drive to the Overlook Hotel? Mm-hmm. And what were those fucking sounds?
Yes!
In The Shining. Well, we'll get to Smile, but in The Shining, I think ultimately it's the same answer for both The Shining and for Smile. It's like, well, in The Shining, you kind of get this like impression of this presence that's watching the car come all the way from Florida. And it's like getting more and more excited about the meal that is coming to them. And it almost sounds like a fucking animal because it's like this weird combination of sounds. And I'm like getting chills like talking about this myself. It's just like in Smile, you get like echoes of that where it's like, what are these fucking...
We literally kept looking at each other like, what is this fucking sound?
Yes. What is this thing we're not seeing? And we don't see for a long time. And let me tell you, when we see what it is, the terror I felt watching what that was just like, I almost felt like crying. Like, oh shit, this is bad. Like, this is ugly and menacing and demonic, and it's just smiling at you the whole time. It is unnerving, just in that aspect, as you mentioned. And then you talk about the pace of it, which is where I thought is like, I was surprised almost immediately. Like it took a minute or two to get to the first kill. And then even then, it kind of like marinated in and of itself, where it's like, it's still not unleashing all of the tropes, all of the cliches, like you would expect a film like this to do so. Mm-hmm. It takes its time to like draw out a bit of the paranoia. Because you're left wondering, okay, I mean, we get a chance to see Dr. Cotter's life. And the things don't start until she comes home. And I feel like we're at the point, well, I don't want to get into the specific moments just yet because that's spoiler territory. But when the things begin, they begin with a bang.
Yeah.
And they just continue to build.
I just remembered.
Yes. It's not good. I mean, it is good, but it's just like, it's scary. But they do begin with a bang in that way. Sosie Bacon's amazing. Oh my God. Like the paranoia, the anxiety, the descent into overall insanity was captured brilliantly here. And yeah, I mean, there was even a shot, like talk about like being a little bit artistic here. There was a shot where she's like, I think she's like parked outside a fucking like diner. And she's like wailing, crying.
Oh yeah,
and while the music with those sounds is like blaring up, and you get the impression that this creature's like laughing at her.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, it's like really like in your face about it too. And I think on some level, even though off the bat there is some kind of like demonic presence here, it does a good job of like showcasing from other people's perspective. This bitch is going insane, like as she's seeing things, and she's even telling people that she's seeing things that are bad. So there's that as well. It takes some interesting turns, and it ends in a place. I gotta be honest with you. I haven't made up my mind how strongly I feel about the ending or not. I'm sure that's the area that people would maybe be most mixed on. But holy hell, it is an amazing ride to get there that by the end, you're just happy it's over no matter what happened. I was just glad, you know what? Good. I'm ready to get out of here. I was like, no. So let me pull up Bib's review here. Lots of horror movies are about trauma. Some attempt to inflict it, but few explore and exploit it as thrillingly as Parker Finn's feature directorial debut, Smile. It's not just smart, it's not just skillful, it makes you unconsciously plead out loud in the theater for the characters to not do that, to not go in there. Also, brief aside, Sosie Bacon's character, Dr. Cotter, was in too many scenes where the lights were turned off.
Oh my god.
You're just asking for trouble at that point. I know. And then go back to the review. Generally not for the love of God. Even a hardened horror fan can easily get swept up in the film's tension. What's absolutely riveting about Smile is the way Finn consciously absorbs the audience in Rose's foggy mindset. Her baggage is enough to fray her nerves, and hours without any supernatural assistance. Cinematographer Charlie Saroff covers the film's action in sharp right angles, giving wide views of Rose's surroundings and offering the audience a false impression of security. We know we're in a horror movie. We know jump scares are in play, but we're so eager to take a breather along with our protagonists that we're constantly searching for peaceful moments, leaving us permanently vulnerable to shock. And impressively, Finn's disturbing screenplay and inventive staging concoct new and surprising jump scares at almost every turn. A film like Smile could have easily rested on its laurels and repeatedly tried to frighten the audience with unexpected grinning ghouls. But instead, we're treated to a veritable smorgasbord of twisted imagery. Smile doesn't utilize jump scares to wake the audience up. It uses jump scares to wear the audience down until we are too exhausted to defend ourselves against the film's many frights. This isn't just a great horror story, it's genuinely scary. You may be able to recognize familiar elements in its DNA, but it's mutated into something distinct and unsettling. What a showcase of shocks. What a devilish debut. I mean, you can't really say more than that, can you? It's like, that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
It's not only good because it's scary, but it's inventive in how scary it is. It's inventive in like how its whole approach to it is, while using a tried and true formula, shall we say, there are a bunch of other films that this was compared to. Basically the formula of this movie is, there's this thing out there, and it like every person that's around it ends up getting infected some way somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to go too far into it just yet, but I loved this movie. I loved it. I hated it and loved it at the same time. It's like it's so good, and what makes me angry is
it's so good that I'm not gonna watch it again.
I don't want to see it again. Because if I do, I'm going to have nightmares. And I did have nightmares. Well, not did, but like, it was just like the whole car ride home. I was in the back of my mind, just like, is anybody behind me right
Literally,
now?
yes,
Yeah.
the whole time. It was, and I drove home by myself. I was so scared.
This is the whole thing. So, if we're going to go ahead and get into this story now, spoiler alert, this demonic individual loves to take over people, kill the hosts in the presence of somebody else, and then it transfers itself into the person that sees the murder.
And this is what I'm a little bit confused about, because the whole movie talks about trauma and people's trauma. So that last kill was a bit confusing to me.
Yeah. No, I get it. Unless there's something we're not aware of yet. Like, I mean, on some level, because there's a moment where it talks, and it's like, but you're so
open.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I just like that line and the delivery of that it was so good. But then you do think to yourself, well, is that what it is? Because I mean, the concept is it doesn't really matter who, you know?
Well, I thought it was very specific because of that one guy that was in jail. So, yeah, like, the ending was a bit confusing to me. Not like, in a way that it, like, messes up the movie for me in any way. Right. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, I thought it was
maybe just not as clear as it could be.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It was one of those kind of things. Yeah, I see. I mean, at the moment, I'm not remembering, like, okay, well, is it just a random thing? Or, like, all the people who get infected do so because they have a traumatic event that happened in their life.
Well, the thing that I kind of got was, so not the person before her, but the one before the first one, saw, I think that's what I remember hearing. He saw his brother die in a car accident, right? Stop. Stop making faces.
I don't want to make faces, but it's just like, there was, because in that scene, they go and he painted that.
Yeah, I know.
His dead brother
I literally
with a
hate
smile.
But he saw his brother die in a car accident, no? And so I thought, oh, okay, it's just people that have gone through really bad trauma. And then when they go back to the guy that was in jail, they don't really say much about him. And then the last, I don't know. Maybe I'm, like, overthinking it.
Yeah, I don't know. It would require a second viewing.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I don't know if
I'm okay. I don't need to know.
But, like, no, there was so many moments in the movie. I just want to, like, get into, like, all right, well, how was it scary? Like, how did it work on me?
I'm literally so scared right now.
I am too, because it's just like, I'm getting chills remembering what it felt like to see it for the first time. And it was just genuinely frightening. Like,
it was so scary.
And I think, like, even doing my best to describe what happened is not going to sell home, like, how it worked so well on me. But, like, I mean, you and I were just like, I mean, you were covering your face half the time. I don't know if you saw most of it.
Blast watching me freak the fuck out.
I mean, you got to a point where, like, somebody opened a backpack in the distance and you thought it was in the movie and you were, like, screaming. So it was like, oh my god. But when I said it started off with a bang, I mean, yes, she sees the bitch in the distance, like, smiling at her. And
oh my god, stop. Ooh.
After she closes the refrigerator door, she drops the glass of wine.
I think that's, like, the worst shot for me. I hated that so much.
Now I'm looking at my back to see if anyone's behind me.
No, I don't want to.
But it's like, I mean, you think that's the one that really freaked me out was when the alarm went off.
I don't want to know. Oh my god.
Oh, when the alarm went off.
No, I don't want to know. Uh-huh.
No, what?
I don't think I saw it, but go ahead.
Oh, no, you did, though. But,
okay, I don't want to remember.
This is the one where the alarm went off, and then she realized that, like, somebody broke into her house.
Oh my god. No.
And then the phone rings, and you think it's, like, the security, until it's like, are you sure about that? Look behind you.
Stop.
Like, that one, and everybody was like, and they felt the same thing at the same time.
Like, hearing the audience's reaction, because they literally were like, oh no. Even when she was in the dark, like, when she was wrapping, like, the present, I could hear everybody being like, why is this bitch doing this? Like, turn on a damn light.
Literally, right? No, but she's like, that particular moment, like, she thinks, like, she's gonna get help. It's like, are you sure about that? What was her name, Sarah?
I don't know.
Or was it, are you sure about that, Rose?
My hands are so
and it's
wetty.
Like, maybe look behind you. And it was just so frightening. Of course, there was nothing behind her, and then it seemed like everything was okay, although it wasn't. But the one that really jumped me, and the one that was like, okay, 'cause it was really unsettling enough, but then he, like, dialed it up, because this was the scene where she's also, I think, in her kitchen or living room. Because she recorded the audio of the girl killing herself in front of her. So she was going back.
I didn't see that one.
You didn't see that one?
No, I didn't.
You didn't see this one? Oh my god. So it's like, she, with headphones on, is listening to the audio in the moments that she died. And there's, like, this little, like, waveform, tiny, like, peak of audio.
She's stupid. Why would
where she plays it. and she hears like a little
No.
like a moan sound, like a just like breathing kind of thing, right? Like it was, but you see it on screen, it's a waveform. So you're not really expecting what it actually is. So she plays it again like 3 times, just like enhance the audio. Alexis, put the headphone back on. What are you taking the headphone off? So she thinks that's what's going on. And then she plays it again and the noise is mysteriously gone. And then we cut to her screaming out of her chair and falling down, because it turns out it was next to her the whole time and was doing in her ear while she thinks that she was looking at the screen. And so somebody was right here the whole time, like standing next to her.
No.
And she's like, oh shit, and then she falls out of the chair. That to me was the one that got me, where I was like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. That got my heart racing. I gotta be honest with you. That was the one where it's like, shit. Right now. But you didn't see this moment?
No. No. Mm-mm. I'm like so happy that I didn't.
This one was bad. Of course, to say nothing of the dead cat scene, which...
Yeah. Nope, stop, don't talk about it.
What?
I know what you're gonna say. The one that got me, like, but I was like, oh, okay, that was really good. When she's talking to her boss, and then they go back and forth between them, and then they go back to him, and it's like that one guy that, you know what I'm talking about? It's like at the very end, not the very, but like almost at the end, like right before she goes to her house.
Oh, that one, yes.
That one.
That one was so quick too.
Yeah,
it was so quick and in your face and
really
scary.
Good.
Yes, that one was great. That one was so amazing. No, wait a minute. I don't want to lose it. There was another one. It was actually a lot of them. That's the
thing.
There
was a lot.
To remember, like, which were the ones that stuck with you the most here.
So scared
and
right
I'm
now.
at a loss. Yeah, it is. But Jesus Christ. No, I like legit. Like it's fucking scary. The moment of like just, oh no, this is the one. She's in her room. She's like a little light on.
Oh yeah, no.
The bathroom door is like open. There's no light. The bathroom door is, and the room is all dark. And then out of nowhere, while she's like reading, very, very softly, something whispers, Rose. Rose. And she just fucking turns the lights off and goes to sleep. Meanwhile, in the distance, we see the thing get up and walk toward her. And then it cuts to the next day, a car almost running her over on the street.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot. The sound design.
It's so good.
The sound design is so inspired because it uses these random, just like loud noises to like almost even as transition points from scene to scene. And they're so effective in just like, increasing the sense of paranoia and like disorientation within yourself. Like these are not noises like railroads or just like, a car horn. They happen in the most random moments and it just contributes to you just being freaked out and thrown off your game. And I would say the sound design in this film is so inspired. It so contributes to the overall success of what this movie is. Again, it's not going to, because the Academy Awards do not consider horror film or horror movies to be real movies. Why? I don't know. They don't like them. But if there were a legitimate group of people out there that were concerned with what was the best of the best, this, I would say, would be in a prime position to win Best Sound Design, just based on like how it used sound in this movie. Also, the details on the set design, the production design.
It's so good.
The small little things that like give like little hints and nods about where this is going. There's this one instance, or actually 2 instances, where she goes into her ex's apartment and there's like a poster of this shadowy monster off in the background. And I noticed it. I'm like,
Yeah.
Then, as she like goes back to her house, she walks in and like I don't know how many people would even catch it, right? But like there was this like mailer or something on the table next to her door that said "Last Chance." Creepy.
What? Oh my god, it's so scary.
But
I literally hate talking about this movie.
but that was the scene, and this one was also really good too. That was the scene where the fake therapist moment happened. Remember when the therapist goes to see her?
Good. I didn't see her face, so I'm happy about that. But
I didn't see it coming. So like the therapist comes and does a house call.
But I said it when she walked in. When the therapist walked in, I don't know if I said it to you or maybe I said it to Kyle, but I was like, "That's not her. That's not her." And
I didn't
Kyle
catch
was like,
that.
"Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's not her."
I didn't catch that. No, I didn't. Because then like they're having a conversation in the living room. She gets a phone call, and the therapist's actually not there. And then it cuts to her, and then she cranks up the big weird smile, and then she gets up and starts like literally lunging at her.
Yeah.
And like, oh no! This is scary. Legit scary. Even up until like, the final moments. I would say that the climax of the film, when the big monster. Well, I don't know if it's big, but just like when she reveals herself, when it reveals itself, really inspired in how unsettling and demonic it was. It looked like. Well, maybe demonic isn't the right way of describing it. It just was so scary, like the look on its face and the delight in what it was doing and how overwhelming the force was.
Yeah,
and that fucking fake out, which I should have seen coming. I don't know why I didn't. I was just willing for it to be done so I can leave.
I know.
But that last one was like, I will be with you forever.
God
when
damn.
it ends up being, oh my god. And then like the whole place, all the lights turn off, and then we're back in the house, and things just get even worse. And oh man, even talking about this movie exhausts me.
No, literally, I feel so out of breath right now. I am so scared. And then also the way that you just tell things, I just think it's creepier.
Because I'm just trying to like give people the best sense of like what it was like for me to watch the movie, right? And I'm just trying to like communicate how I felt like, and this is how I felt like. I was just deeply unsettled and creeped out and like scared for my life. Yeah, honestly, like even the confrontation, literally, it was that good as far as like the scare factor is concerned, at least for me. Now, I don't want to hype it up to like people walk in and it's like, well, it wasn't that scary.
Yeah,
okay, well, for me it was, you know, like for me it was like I haven't had one that hit this hard in a long time. Like legitimately, just not just unsettling, not just creepy, but legitimately scary.
Yeah. But I also love that we went to go see, because we were gonna watch other ones, and this is I think like the last one on the list for us, and I'm so happy we went to go see it.
I know, right? It was by happenstance because there was like a particular like time.
Yeah.
Right, and like all the other films were like playing at different times. Like this is the one that was at the best place for it. I don't regret it. And I'm happy that I didn't see it alone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would have loved to have seen you watch this alone.
Only if you watch Cats.
I think you would have walked out.
I would have been fucking scared. I mean, I was scared, but just like, yeah, this is. But also, like, you know, with horror films, what really like makes the experience even more so than that is the theater crowd.
Yeah.
And holy hell, that really contributes. I mean, to me, that's the best possible result you could hope for in a horror film with that kind of audience. Just like, and they're like, you could tell the crowd was really into it and like scared at the same things. And like the people were like, yeah.
They were like laughing nervously the whole time. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Like we were, yeah, basically. Just like, because if you don't laugh, we'll cry. Yeah. Anyway, shall we try and forget about that?
Please.
Like, legit, I've been trying to forget this.
I know, me too, honestly.
Because then I'm reminded of the scares, and I'm like, okay. Anyway, let's move on and wrap up our episode with 2 more discussions. First, with Andor Episode 5. My first reaction to the episode... Well, actually, there's 2 takeaways to this episode. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet.
No.
No, okay. So this will be a really short conversation then. So this picks up immediately after the events of last episode. So the structure of this show is that every 3 episodes is kind of its own self-contained thing. So think of it like the Clone Wars, where they would take 4 episodes to be like one story arc. So this is what it is like here in Andor. So it's like part 2 of like what happened last week. So we pick up with Mon Mothma. We pick up with Andor as Clem, disguised in this group, and things escalate obviously. There are a lot of takeaways, as a matter of fact, and I want to actually get some tweets that were really good takeaways from the episode. But the first thing is, I'm wondering, I don't know, we'll see, right? But I'm wondering if maybe, like with other shows, I know with Arcane, they dropped 3 episodes every week in their season on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what it would look like, or if we would be more... There would be more to say than just it's good if they dropped 3 every week.
Mm-hmm.
Because technically speaking, if they dropped 3 every week, we would be done in a month. Like 4 weeks' time, I would say. Let me actually get the tweets out for this. There's a lot of smaller things in this episode that really contributed to the whole that we said last week, which is what really attracted us to the show. And that is, it is surprising. I mean, you have to pinch yourself repeatedly that this takes place in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because it feels like real life, you know? It also just feels real in a much more grounded way, where it's not so, drenched in names and nostalgia. So, let's see here. Braddington and let's see. Why can't people just say their fucking names? I don't know why these fucking critics. Okay, it's a fucking Paddington parody. His freaking at Brad Whipple. Okay. It's so damn refreshing that Andor will use an entire episode to unpack and analyze each person's motivation for rebellion. No big action scenes, just intimate suspense. This pacing is exactly what we've needed. Yeah, and I think that's kind of where it is, where this episode was just a lot of anxiety, paranoia in the characters themselves, and what is about to transpire. There's this one scene where we have with Stellan Skarsgård, and he's just by this radio waiting for a message to come in, and you can just you can read it on his face. He's just freaking nervous because he's never exposed himself in this way before. No. And he's particularly nervous about whether or not he was right to trust Andor with this very important mission. So, and that's just one element of the episode. That's not to say with Mon Mothma, and in this episode, let's just say she's facing, we get a real lens into what her life at home is like, and not to get too into it, it's not any better than her life as a senator.
No.
So it's really hard to be her. On top of the Imperials at the ISB, the Imperial, I think the Security Bureau, who are or the one woman that's in the chain of command, who is catching on to they've realized that there were a whole bunch of random, I guess, thefts or incidents, and they're the only ones that know it's too random to be just random, and that they know there is a coordinated effort going on. So they're on the hunt. All the while, we also see Cyril, who is that guy that got fired from because of how he fucked up for staging all that massacre, basically. And he's back home, and the whole episode he's just being well, he's fired. He's back on home living with his mom, and you can tell how much he's enjoying that. He felt a little too real, if you ask me. So that was that. Alden Diaz says, once again, Andor takes the time to unleash an explosion of ideological and thematic questions. This is Star Wars, unpacking what the emotional, communal, and even familial costs are for those that choose to become fighters. It does have action. It's just in the mind. It's loud. There's so much going on in the show that you have to infer, but it's clearly being able, like, you can infer it if you see it. And it's very thematic and ideological. And again, it's so different than anything on Disney Plus. Anything on Disney Plus. Like, it's so, like, superb in its execution. The closest thing that should be like this, because it involves espionage, in theory should be the upcoming Secret Invasion. I don't know how much faith anybody has in that to, compare to it, but in theory, that's what it should be aiming to be what this is. DJ Woldridge, how is Andor so consistently good? Who let this happen?
Literally.
This was a funny one.
Can they do it again?
I know, right? This is hilarious. Star Wars canon is crazy. At the same time Andor is going on a gritty heist, Zeb and Ezra are trying to get a fruit. This apparently takes place in the first season of Star Wars Rebels. The same time period. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm sure there was another one I had in here somewhere, but... Oh, yes. There was one here, Star Wars Takes. The scene... Oh, actually, you know what? This is a scene in regards to the one you saw last week. Where Mon Mothma walks in and her husband, ambushes her with, the list of, the dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And, Star Wars Takes tweeted, this might be one of the most uncomfortable Star Wars scenes. Mon Mothma's marriage has basically become a prison for her. And I like that this scene doesn't even sugarcoat that. Her husband is abusing her tolerance. The writing in this show has been superb. This was by far the standout moment of the episode for me. Lots of depth given to Mon Mothma here, and I'm excited to see where her story goes and how far they push it. In response to the scene from last week. So yeah. Pretty great.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it. I just haven't seen it because I had to turn in homework yesterday.
No, yeah, it's fine. That's totally fine. But, yeah. Pretty good episode. Things keep going. The way they should. And it's like talking about this one piece. It's like talking about one of the Clone Wars story arcs. Like removing one out of the 4 puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
It's like you have to see it completed. So next week we'll have the whole puzzle and we can talk about beginning, middle, and end. So, which I'm okay with. It's episodic enough where it keeps me invested every week.
Yeah.
So that's good enough for me. Well, good enough for me considering how everything else surrounding it. Anyway, let's get into some hot tea with hot D. Yes, hot tea and hot D. Hot tea and hot D. Okay. House of the Dragon, episode 7. These people. These fucking people. The whole episode, I'm like, for real, man? For real? It's this is a family? So many characters and so many, moments where I'm like, really? Really? It almost feels like we're watching, a fucking trashy Real Housewives show with how much, drama's going on.
Kyle called me immediately after I finished it, and he said, I feel like I just watched a Jerry Springer episode.
I loved it.
It was so good.
I love this episode so much.
I'm so happy with this show. I feel like each episode is just better and better. And one complaint, but other than that, I love this. I love it so much.
It's so riveting. It's so oh my god. And then when it ends, it's it's the perfect show to just also talk with somebody about all the shit that went down. And in this episode particularly, a lot of things happened. It started off kind of quiet, but even in the quiet moments, a lot of this episode in the beginning is just people glaring at each other. And there's so much being said there. So much being said with no words whatsoever. Again, like in every episode, the performances, phenomenal. The sets, amazing. The look of it, with one exception, which we'll get into in a bit, pretty great. The writing on point. The dialogue so wonderfully written. I'm struggling to find a point in the episode where it, like, I didn't like. There was one moment where I feel one character almost lost me completely. But then a reveal happened, and it's like, oh, okay, I see what it is. So here, the basic premise of the episode. Even, I assume a couple of days or weeks have passed since the events of last week. And where we are is a funeral for Lena at Driftwood. Right? Driftwood or Driftmark? Driftmark. Did I say Driftwood?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, it might as well be at this point. Driftmark. Everyone's there. The whole family is back together again. For a happy occasion. No, not really. Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. And all the while, the hand died, and so did his son at Harrenhal. There's a new lord, there's a new hand. They're all there now. And things are like, tensions are running high. A lot of these people do not like each other very much. And them being this close together is just like, it's like hormones, but not really. And so it's just like being near each other just like stokes up so much tension. It really does, from everybody involved. It was, the king looking at his brother the whole time, like trying to make up his mind, like what to say, if to say anything. Daemon just like being there. Daemon's, ironically enough, Daemon seemed to have had the best time at his wife's funeral. I mean, he didn't seem particularly happy, but he was just like, I guess, accepting what happened.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, right? Meanwhile, everybody else, the kids, Lena's kids just lost, obviously, their mom. Rhaenyra's kids are like, they feel weird because they know their real dad died and they should be over there. Laenor is just losing it, like staying by the water. Corlys is like trying to keep things together, trying to like keep the optimism. Rhaenyra is just trying like to get stabbed, I think. And Alicent is just like being a bitch as usual. Kristen is just like being a bit overprotective and not realizing that like Larys is on their side. So a lot's already happened. And I have questions.
Okay.
Immediately. I know there's a lot to say. I think overall it was a great episode. I loved it. But there are, like, again, these kind of questions that just bother me. Because of the realities of this world. And they're kind of like similar to how I was bothered with like Kristen being somehow spared. And I assume he was spared of any consequence over the wedding that he ruined because the queen at the last minute named her protector. Okay. I don't see how that means shit when the king... Well, I guess with this king being as pathetic and weak as he is, maybe it does mean anything. Because the queen, honestly, if we're being real, acts more with authority than the king does. And this episode was not Viserys' shining moment, if there ever was one. But it certainly wasn't here. But, more to the point. What's vexing me? Okay. And I guess it all just falls back on Viserys. And I'm really just... It frustrates me because I like the guy. And I like what he wants to happen. But he just is incapable of fulfilling it in any way whatsoever. So immediately I'm just like bothered because we begin the episode presumably what? a couple of days or maybe a week or two tops after Laena died. And this also means after Lionel Strong was burned alive with Harwin. Okay, well, he needs a new hand. Yeah, obviously. And it bothers me to an extent that I feel like I know what it is. But it does bother me that we don't get the time to see Viserys react to Strong, dying, and then even going into the thought process of who to replace him with. And so considering that we saw Viserys' thought on the matter, and considering why he dismissed Otto Hightower in the first place, which were pretty valid reasons, the idea that we start the episode and he's the hand again doesn't make any sense to me. The only sense it makes is that the Greens need an ally on their side. And what better ally is there than the hand of the king, who would act in his place when the king is indisposed, when an ailing king would at some point be indisposed. So you could kind of argue, well, the show needed Otto Hightower to be back in this place. And maybe you can also say, well, Viserys is so lacking of a spine at this point that Alicent's just in charge. And she made the decision and pressured, or just, yeah, that's what it is. Because otherwise I don't know how this happens. And I'm surprised that Rhaenyra wouldn't even bother to put up a fight against, well, why are you bringing this guy back? He's against me. He's trying to keep me from the crown. That's why you fired him in the first place. Why is he back? So I'm surprised this was not made more of an issue, that Otto is back like nothing ever happened and no one questions it. So again, keep in mind, this is where my mind is at when all the other shit is going down. So I don't know what you feel on that matter.
No, yeah, I think everybody agrees with what you are saying. So I guess what happens is in the books is that he considers having Daemon as his hand and Rhaenyra as his hand. Ideally, Rhaenyra would have been the best choice. But I guess at this point, she's already gone from King's Landing. And he
poor timing, that bitch.
Jesus.
I'm sorry, but she left at the worst possible moment. If she just stayed a day longer,
oh my God,
I'm sorry. That pissed me off.
Yeah.
I'm mad now.
Yes, I agree. And I guess his thought process was, if I have Rhaenyra as my hand, the line
of succession is just easy. If you can see it, it's there. Because the hand is second in command.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. He's like, well, the feud between my wife and my daughter is never gonna end. So that was his reasoning as to why Rhaenyra is not the hand. And then Daemon is because he's Daemon. And so he just said, well, I did have this other hand. And he's been the hand for, other kings as well. Let's just go back to him. And it'll make my wife happy.
I don't buy into the idea that Viserys, I feel like there was a moment in this episode where it's very much confirmed he knows that Rhaenyra's children are not his real grandchildren. But he cannot be publicly admitting it, especially in court, because then that would ruin everything. So he can't be brought there, and he can't even entertain this as being real.
Mm-hmm.
Even though a lot of people would claim it's self-delusion. No, he doesn't want to acknowledge it, because the minute it does, a whole bunch of can of worms opens, and you don't want to go anywhere near that. Then we get into discussions of trials and executions of your own family, and that's just not desirable, least of all to Viserys, who is the person who's most trying to be a family person with a family that has no interest in being one at the end of the day. And I think we see it here, but it's just so infuriating when like he's so blind to the people around him just continuously not, being on his side. Like, he has to know that the hostilities between his wife and his daughter have gotten so bad at this point. The idea that Otto Hightower, the person you fired in the first place because you knew he was against your heir ascending to the throne, you put him back in power to the point where when it looks like he's somehow incapacitated the next episode. And so for the moment that he is, Otto Hightower is in control. That's not good for your daughter.
Yeah.
When you know he's been trying to replace her as your heir. So
out of we know that he's made some pretty bad decisions in the past, but out of all of them, I think this one is the worst decision he could have possibly made, and it is not without consequence in the future.
Yes, it is particularly. I mean, he should have just put in either Daemon or Rhaenyra. And honestly, I didn't even think about it, but Rhaenyra as being hand, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you're the king. You have the power to do so.
Like, I saw this tweet. I don't know if I sent it to you, but it was like, can somebody please tell Viserys that he is the king and he can make these decisions and people have to follow these?
It's like telling Joe Biden, like, hey, you're the president. You can do these things. Well, yeah, it's so... Like, he should have accepted that marriage proposal and, like, fuck all with what Alicent said.
Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, each episode has so many things, like, to talk about and stuff, but, like... The small things in this episode, like, Alicent, this is, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, interesting, this is why I hate you. But when Aegon and Aemond start talking about Helena and, like, how Aegon is gonna marry her, or they're, like, betrothed.
Her sister?
Isn't it so funny? How in that episode where Alicent finds out about Rhaenyra and Daemon, and she is full on like judging, like, you and your Targaryen ways, and like all the, and like, look at her. I hate her.
She
and also declining Rhaenyra's proposal of marrying one of her kids with Helena.
I'm not on Alicent's side, and I haven't been on it, but I think that isn't to say you don't understand from her point of view what is causing her to react the way that she is. I just feel like it's gone to the point where it is just completely unhinged. Like, okay, you can say, as I have seen people defend why Alicent feels the way that she does. However, as I have been saying all along, she has so gotten into her head that Rhaenyra is perennially against her and will do whatever it takes to eliminate her children to ascend to the throne herself, because she has now been convinced that Rhaenyra was never a good person to begin with and that she's just this craven creature who will do whatever it takes to ascend to the throne. That's what she's been convinced of, and that she will kill her children literally. Her father told her that. That's her point of view, and from her perspective, she had been lied to from all the people in the Targaryen family, so she has no reason to trust any of them. Sure. However, this is where things get a bit over the top. And that's saying something considering this show and what we've seen. Like, it's one thing. And we were saying, like, hey, Kristen Cole put all these heirs in danger of both House Valyria and both House Targaryen, including their heir, mind you, that she had to be, like, whisked away to safety. Right? He literally assaulted the king consort, the future at one point king consort, and murdered one of the people in his guard. Like, that can't be okay. That should have been grounds for execution, at the very least dismissal. It wasn't, because of Alicent, I assume so. All right? With all of that taken into consideration, in this episode, what we see here, Now, granted, of course, the reality of what was going on between those children brawling, certain things were kept from the grown-ups, which is that at one point, now granted, of course, that Allison's kid, Aemond, I believe, had been like mocked his whole life for not having a dragon through no fault of his own, obviously. And so there's a lot of pent-up aggression. But in the brawl, from my perspective and what was shown, he was aiming for a kill. That was conspicuously just like left absent from all of the proceedings. And so because that is absent, yes, Aemon losing an eye is a very serious offense, very serious crime. And had it been any ordinary person, they would have been put to death. Easy as that. There wouldn't have been a conversation. That's what it was. But because it was the children of the royal families that, caused this happen, it caused a kerfuffle at the very least. And there was this debate going on. That is very serious. However, they're children. These things happen. It's unfortunate, but they are children and they're on the royal family. There really wasn't more to be done than what happened. And if there were grown-ups in the room, like what Viserys was trying to be, it is what it is. Make your apologies and move the fuck on. I want to go to bed now. This is basically
sleep,
what,
damn it.
right? Like this is basically what was going on. Well, what should have happened. And while it did show, it gave Otto a hard-on for whatever weird reason, which was weird for what happened here. But Alicent overstepped herself several times, and it wasn't just the one big thing. It was several moments because she called as soon as the king made his decree. She questioned him in front of the whole court, saying that's not good enough. You don't do that, bitch. Who do you think you are? You're the queen consort, not the queen. He's the king. His word is law. What do you think is happening here? And everyone was just like, okay, this is, get the popcorn out. And she's like, that's bad enough. Then she calls for an eye for an eye. She calls for, on paper, the eye of one of the future heirs to the Iron Throne. And when the king denies her defiance twice, she then defies him even more by telling her own protector to basically ignore what the king said and do what I say.
And he says no, which is fucking funny.
Right? Like, and Kristen Cole's like, he's like,
he said, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna just chill back here.
I mean, correct me, because there was a lot of chaos that happened there. Didn't he begin to approach at some point, and like Daemon stopped him?
Once Alicent got the knife and went up to Rhaenyra, he started walking, and then Daemon said, nope, this is where you stop. That was already so many offenses there. Then she grabbed the knife from the king. Not just grabbed the knife. Not just a knife. The knife.
The knife, yeah. She grabbed the knife. And she attempted to kill Rhaenyra Targaryen, the heir to the Iron Throne. And while she wasn't successful in it, she did assault her. Attempted murder, assault, treason. At the very least, even if you're the queen consort, those are offenses so extreme that should have, again, at the very least, either gotten you locked up for some period of time or sent away. And this was pretty fucking bad. Like, just watching this go down, I was like, she did not just do that. And the consequences of this just like reverberates all around because like no one's even thinking about like the fucking dragon that her son stole from Laena. And honestly,
one person is.
I was surprised that Corlys and Rhaenys We're like, hey, not to like sidestep your like personal, family business, but like our daughter's dragon was stolen. Is no one going to address that?
This is like where I think that the show called House of the Dragons is doing somewhat of a not great job in presenting dragon lore. But he technically didn't steal her. Once the writer dies, that dragon is up for anybody.
Right. And I feel like I got that. I got that in the episode. But that comes with the expectation that the writer's children would inherit it, and that is they would claim it. They are expected to claim it. It was still there.
Not necessarily. Because Vhagar was up for grabs. Lena went and Vhagar was a Targaryen dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's half Targaryen, but like Vhagar was Aegon the First or Aegon the Conqueror's wife's dragon. Mm-hmm. So literally, the dragon was up for grabs, and Aemon said, "This is de aquí soy."
I mean, he almost paid the price for it several times over.
So and like I'm not like disagreeing with you that like
no, I get what you're saying.
That, and it was very disrespectful, especially
at a
on
funeral.
the eve of the writer's funeral. And the fact that he had like absolutely no like remorse, or like he literally was like, "Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you go and take it?" No, he's a little shithead, but all's fair.
As far as the law, I guess that's true. Okay. So that's one piece of instance there. But, like, this moment, your thoughts on all of the Alicent's, I would say, treasonous behavior.
No, it was really bad. What she did. She shouldn't have done that. I will say that Rhaenyra's comeback was perfect. But my thing is actually afterwards, because I think like during the end, you can kind of see that like she was like, oh shit, like she kind of comes off of like this trance. Like she drops the knife and she's like, what the fuck did I just do? Type of thing. Like she let her anger completely take over. And I think that it did make her realize, like, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of all of this? Mm-hmm. And I think when we get to that scene with Otto and her in her room, I think that she is fully thinking, like it needs to change. Things need to change. I need to change. Like, I made a fool of myself type of thing. But Otto comes in, and instead of being like, what the hell was that? That was stupid. He goes, oh, I see what you can do now. Let's partner up to be at the top. Like, he encourages her. So I think that, like, she's always being, even though she is frustrated because she thinks that she knows everybody's manipulating her, she continues to let people do it. And I think that that's, like, unfortunate, and things could have been different, but they're not going to be, because now she has her dad, who is the one that kind of set up for all of this to happen.
I mean, if anyone's like a villain in this story, it's him. Like, you can trace back like the descent into absolute like chaos to him.
Yeah.
It's
and then even like how you were saying that like nobody's realizing about what her son just did with Vhagar. He noticed, and he was the only one to tell her like he was right, because Aemon has that line at the end, don't worry, I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon. And then Otto comes in and tells her like, it's fine, you don't need to do anything back, we have Vhagar. Like, not just a dragon, but like the dragon. You know?
Like, I mean, if anything, this is, I mean, that's a nuclear weapon.
I feel like 10.
The nuclear.
10.
Yeah. And it's like, we have our champion for war.
Yeah.
Which is going to happen.
Yeah. Vhagar literally evens out the playing field. Because if you think about it, the Blacks, which are the Rhaenyra side, they had, I think, like 4 or 5 dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And Alicent only had 2. And now they have Vhagar.
So how many dragons are there? That's it?
I don't remember their names, but Rhaenyra has a dragon, Daemon. Her son, Luke, I think, the older one. And then Sea Smoke, who was Laenor's dragon, but who knows what the hell is going on there, because that's a bit confusing too. And then Rhaenys's dragon, and then Daemon's daughter has a dragon. So they have like 6, 7. And then Helena and Aegon's dragon. And then there is Vhagar. There's more dragons out there, but I think that they're only going to focus on
wow, that's an interesting question about Laenor's dragon. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a whole scene, clearly. Elsewhere in the episode, Daemon and Rhaenyra not only reunite, they reconcile, they recouple, and you can see where that went. Although, well, not really, right? Because you couldn't really see it. What was going on? Was there like an eclipse? Like, why?
I don't know.
What was the reasoning behind why it looked that way?
Done by the same director who did The Long Night, which is that one episode.
No.
Yeah.
He did it again?
Yeah.
Did he learn
he
nothing?
Said, you guys complained about my episode? Well, let me show you this. But, like, not really. And then it's literally, like, the 2 scenes that we have all been waiting for. The claiming of Vhagar and Rhaenyra and Daemon hooking up. Could not
you
see
couldn't
a thing.
see anything. Like, I turned my lamp off. You can't see me now because it's pitch black.
That's scary.
I know, right? I couldn't see it. I still couldn't see it.
Driving in complete darkness. Could not see a thing.
That's not good.
No.
I can't see anything. I'm like, I mean, like, maybe is there like a happy medium to kind of get close to what you wanted to hear, but like where we can still see? You know?
I literally had to come home and play it again because I was like, I couldn't see anything. I don't know what the hell was going on.
And did you see it?
Yeah, I saw
better.
It. Okay. Kind of.
Yeah, basically, kind of. And it's like, okay, that's not good at all. But anyway, those 2 clearly had a flame for each other that never went away. It seems like some part of her did want Daemon to take her away from the wedding. Or all those years ago, it would seem. And they missed each other. And they had sex. Uncle and niece had sex. But they're Targaryens, so this show is like, okay, great. Yeah, a little icky, but okay. I mean, they are how they are, right? So there's that's happening. Meanwhile, Laenor is just completely hopeless. He's just nowhere to be seen. I mean, it's so sad how absent he is. It's so funny. The scene where he, like, it seems like he woke up from, like, some kind of stupor. And, like, Rhaenyra...
What's going on?
Rhaenyra's are getting bandaged up. The kids are, like, injured. And he's like, what happened? He didn't say that, but, like, the look on his face was like, what happened? Like, where the fuck were you? Like, he was the only one not around. And he realizes that. And it's sweet how he's like, you know what? We tried. And I wish I could change how I am. It was a great moment where she's like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're a sweet, like, kind man. That's a rare thing to find. It was really nice for her to say that. And she meant it with all her soul and everything. And it's also even sweeter still how, like, he declares that he will recommit to this and to be there for her a lot more than he has, which has been nothing, it seems like. It wasn't meant to be. Clearly, as in, Rhaenyra understands how far she's been pushed back in this race to the Iron Throne. The children and the rumors are not going to go away. He lost a dragon. Her father's not helping her at all. So she needs backup. And then she realizes, I have no one else to turn to but you. And I can't do this without you. And that's Daemon. And Daemon is interesting because, like, he wants nothing to do with this anymore. Now, there's some development that happened off screen.
I don't think that's true.
With the Iron Throne?
Yeah. Okay. I think that... So, I assume that you're talking about the conversation he had with Viserys.
I'm talking about, like... Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. Go into that.
Because I took that as, like... Like, I think that Daemon's, like, ultimately what he wants is just... Because his thing is, like, he loves his family. He may do bad things, and he may not be that great of a person, but he loves his family. And the fact that, like, his brother has pushed him aside this whole time, like, it hurts him. And when, you know, everything happens and stuff, and they're meeting each other for the first time in, like, 10 plus years, and Viserys is finally, he's like, you can come back, like, we have a place for you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, like, fuck you. Like, you abandoned me, and, like, now you just expect me to, like, be okay with it, and, like, you know? And so the fact that Rhaenyra is like, I need you. And this is also, like, somebody that he's, like, yearned for so long, but, like, couldn't have, that now he's like, okay, like... I'm ready.
Right. And just, like, reflecting on that conversation, it also is really sad because I feel like what Viserys really wanted to say is, please come back, man, I need you.
Yeah.
There's nobody there for me.
Yeah.
I'm all alone.
Yeah.
I need someone to help me out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, if you
communicated this.
That's the thing. It's like, and Daemon knows that Viserys' problem has always been, it's like, Daemon has always seen himself as there to save his brother from his worst tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And if Daemon had been kept close all these years, we'd be in a much different situation.
Oh, yeah. He should have been made hand from
years
the beginning.
ago. Yes.
Yeah.
Very clearly so.
Even in that conversation, I don't know if you noticed this, but he says, I don't want... Or he says something like, I want, and then he, like, stops himself, and then he said nothing. But, like, in that moment that he stops himself, it looks like he's about to say Rhaenyra. So, interesting.
Well, considering that what transpires after that is Rhaenyra and Daemon basically agree that they're better together in every way imaginable, and particularly for this, like, conquest, because this would technically both get them what they want, which is the throne, but also, you know, for the sake of their family. I love that line, like, we were always meant to burn together. Mm-hmm. Amazing fucking line there. But of course, Daemon was like, but in order for us to marry, Lena would have to be dead. And then we cut to Rhaenyra, was like, yes.
Yes.
So if you've seen the episode, you know what happens. But it keeps you guessing for a while there. Well, actually, it doesn't keep you guessing. It keeps you convinced of one thing, and then it pulls a switcheroo at the very end. Mm-hmm. So, tell me, ultimately, did you really think Rhaenyra signed off on Laenor being assassinated like that in cold blood? Or did you see it coming that it turns out both her and Daemon, along with Sir Carl, who they employ on paper anyway, to assassinate Laenor, the plan was to make it look like he was assassinated by killing some random squire, and then Laenor and Carl escaping off through the Narrow Sea and a place where they can be what they want to be. Because I wasn't sure at first. I was like disappointed in a way. Like, really? This guy, like, you just said you love him. You're really going to kill him. But no, I think it ends in a way where like they know that Laenor is still out there. And this was the thing all along. It wasn't just like, oh, Carl like made his own adjustments and like saved Laenor. No, like this was the plan the entire time.
Yeah.
And in a way, as I feel like Daemon says, and I quote, to set him free from all these obligations and for him to be himself. Which, in a way, it's its own kindness. Maybe not from the perspective of like Corlys and Rhaenys. But ultimately they've lived their lives. It's time for like, Laenor to have his, because he hasn't had much of one these last 10 years. And it's also time for Rhaenyra and Daemon to live freely themselves. So we cut to them getting married. I don't know where it's implied they got married, or if it even matters if it was Dragonstone, or if they got married at, it'd be pretty awkward if they got married at Driftwood.
No, it was at Dragonstone.
Okay, yes, it would. I also want to know how much time. I want to know how much time passed.
No.
Right? Like, did they just do it immediately?
Well, so yes. Okay. Going back to the Laenor thing. I mean, when I saw the whole thing, I thought it was, at least for me, it was obvious that they were in it, like all four of them.
Uh-huh.
I low-key wish that they would have had Corlys and Rhaenys involved too, but I guess they had to make it convincing.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally think, because in the books, a lot of people, or it's kind of a little bit like implied that Daemon is the one that kills Laenor in order to be with Rhaenyra.
Uh-huh.
So even though that is interesting and it is very in Daemon's character,
the same way it's implied that Daemon killed his first wife in the books. Okay.
Yes. I think because like the whole thing about this story is that everybody is a bad person, and I think right now, because it's a show and they want to keep people interesting, they're very much setting up for Rhaenyra to be the good side and Alicent.
We need somebody to root for in this show.
Yes.
We need the Starks.
Yeah. But the point of this story is that everybody is not a good person. So I do think that it would have been very interesting if Rhaenyra killed Laenor to be with Daemon. Like, they kind of reversed it from the books. Not that I think it should have happened, but, like, I just think it would have been interesting, and I really would have liked to see, like, what people think afterwards, if that would have happened, because I think that right now people really do not like Alicent. And so if Rhaenyra would have done this, I wonder how people would have reacted afterwards.
I mean, I wonder that myself. I can tell you my initial reaction wasn't positive at the thought that Rhaenyra orchestrated this, assassination. I mean, I understand it politically. But like in a show like this, as you say, it does, as a TV show, become in a way imperative to have one person to like root for, And I've been on Team Targaryen the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was for the last show, and that didn't end very good.
Well.
In many ways, obviously. Yeah, well, speaking of, like, in this context, we know this is not going to end well for anybody involved. Well, maybe for some people, but not for the Targaryens. So,
yeah.
C'est la vie, as they say.
But it was a good, I guess, thing for Laenor, and it was nice of Rhaenyra to do this. Even though she did have something to gain from it.
Yeah, I mean, they all did. That's
yeah.
the thing. They all had a lot to gain from it.
But the whole dragon thing is still... I don't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like... Very interesting.
And then with the whole wedding...
Uh-huh.
Aren't you happy that this is the first wedding where nobody dies? But also, this is Rhaenyra's second rushed wedding. But I think that it happened literally like they left Driftmark, landed in Dragonstone, and said, we're getting married. I think that only because I know that in the books, they basically kind of do the same thing because they know that this is something that nobody's going to be happy about. And
so why have a big wedding?
Yeah. And if Viserys would have found out beforehand, he would have put a stop to it. And so they were like, no, let's just get going.
I'm curious to see his reaction.
Yeah. Interesting.
How much time is supposed to pass in between? Because there's another time jump, right?
Yeah, I would say maybe like it's a few years because I know that they're gonna be like teens now, and I think like late teens.
But like it also, more than just like, of course, caring about them as characters, Daemon is a very valuable ally to have in this fight.
Oh yes,
and Rhaenyra, the girl, she needs any help. But he's going to be a lot of help to her. I can't wait to see those two, like, that power duo, like, take on the Greens. That's perfect. It really is. 3 episodes left?
I'm so sad.
But it's so good.
It's so good.
It's such a great... Oh, gosh. Was there anything else that we didn't, like, address?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So much happened. I feel like we probably did miss something.
One thing that I thought was...
I did want to mention that I think my favorite scene in the whole episode is the claiming of Vhagar. I literally got chills watching that. The score in that moment was so good.
One last thing, and I feel like Jim, I believe it's Jim from IGN, I believe, had a really, I feel like kind of nailed like what's really going on here. Team Rhaenyra or Team Alicent? There are cases to be made for both. To me, Alicent, yes, she's a pawn who agreed to play the Game of Thrones, is trying to not have her kids killed or eaten by the incestuous, lying heir with a dragon. But her paranoia is making it a reality. That's what it is. Like, the things that she's been fed to were not true. Viserys and Rhaenyra, at that point in time, many years ago, they were not capable. They clearly aren't. Like, do you know? They're not capable of the things that Otto accused them of being capable of.
Like,
but
she literally said, let's marry our kids.
Yes.
And she said no. Like, at this point... This is your own fault.
I mean, clearly. And then Rhaenyra, on the other hand, is trapped. Yes, she has a birthright, so that should settle that, but her dithering dad isn't helping. Still, her choices and lies, knowing they're dangerous, can't be blamed on Alicent. Entitlement doesn't compensate for a lack of political savvy. And that's kind of been her downfall in a way for Rhaenyra, is like she... in theory, should have known a lot better. And she made a lot of careless and poor mistakes in this Game of Thrones that for other people would have cost them the game entirely. So the idea that she's still standing after all of that, like, to me, the thing that really, like, is like an anchor around her neck is the accusations that her kids are bastards.
Yeah.
That's damning. That's really fucking damning.
Yeah. But, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. It's just hard to, like, talk about it with like our perspective and like the like our world, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And like when you put it in the world of Westeros, like obviously it changes things. And it's just like interesting because like she would do something like this. Like if you watch those first few episodes and like just like the way that she talks about having kids and getting married and stuff, like obviously she has that fear of like what happened to her mom happening to her, so that also has, you know, stuff in like the decisions that she made, but just like the fact that like I think that a really good moment with Rhaenyra is when they're out in the town before they hit the brothel, and they're doing that play about her, Daemon, and Aegon, and she's like booing everybody because they want Aegon to be the heir, and she says like, who cares what they think? And Daemon's like, the heir should, basically. You know, you see that when she was younger, like she didn't care, she didn't know, and she wasn't taught to be this way, even though like, you know, she is raised in this environment and in this, you know, the world of being in court and all that stuff. Like she just kind of thought like she could do whatever the fuck she wants, but now she's like, fuck, like I fucked up.
And speaking of the bastard issue, one moment that was pretty like deafening was when like I love it when like Viserys is like questioning Aemond.
Oh yeah.
And he just looks at Alicent and everybody just knows, but we're not gonna like say it out loud. And then so like Aemond like throws his brother Aegon under the bus. So then he questions Aegon, and then he's just like, everyone knows. And the silence that comes after that.
Like, are you stupid or what?
And then he doesn't have a response.
Yeah.
He just kind of shuts it down.
I'm so excited to see, even though I literally hate him, like, I think Kristen is like the one that I hate the most. But Aemon is like right on there. I'm so excited to see him in the next 3 episodes.
Aemond or Aegon? Which is the older one?
Aegon.
Aegon is the older one?
Older, yes. Aemon is the second one.
Oh, the shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aemond One Eye. That's what he's called. And then Aegon the second.
Yeah. Aegon doesn't seem to like give a shit about anything.
Oh no. Well, he does. Like that's the thing. Like it's so interesting that, because also like the relationship between Otto and Aegon, and then Otto and Aemond, where, you know, in the funeral he's literally like pushing and kicking Aegon around and being like, what the fuck are you doing? And then when it comes to Aemon, he's like, this kid is going places. But yeah, I'm like super interested to see because also that conversation that they have about Helena, where you get a little bit of like,
honestly, I forget even exists sometimes because she's like nowhere to be seen most of the show. Like, where was she? Yeah.
You have that conversation between both of them where they're talking about like getting married to her and stuff, and obviously like you have Aegon being like, I want nothing to do with this, like I literally don't care, I don't want to marry my fucking sister. And Aemon is a little bit like, don't talk about her that way, like, and then the fact that he tells her like she's your future queen, wild.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like we're ready to sign off now.
Yes.
Thank you, House of the Dragon, for existing. This is great. Thank you, all the rest of you, for listening to our conversation. Remember to keep it here for, you know, all the latest developments coming out of the world of movies. One thing actually before we go, I'm sorry I began to sign off, but one minor correction. Last episode I had mentioned that the writer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was doing Secret Wars. That was a mistake. They're doing the Kang Dynasty, which is the first part of this multiversal Avengers thing.
Also even worse.
But it turns out that the person that has been hired to write Avengers Secret Wars is Michael Waldron, who wrote for the series Loki and wrote for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Both projects of which I had massive issues with, particularly with the writing. And now this person's doing Avengers Secret Wars.
Interesting.
And I'm sure longtime listeners know how I feel about that. Anywho, that's all I can say about it. Anyway, all right? It is what it is. Thank you all for listening. Of course, our podcasts are available every single Sunday, anywhere you stream podcasts. And until next time, bye-bye.